He took 3 steps, just 3. From his front door toward the street he'd walked 1,000 times before. 20 feet to work. 20 feet he would never complete. They found his body 4 days later, frozen solid, 15 feet from his own doorway. He could have touched his house if he'd known which direction to reach. March 12, 1888. The day an ordinary snowstorm became America's deadliest trap. Nobody saw it coming. That's what made it so deadly. The winter of 1888 felt normal, maybe even mild by Northeast standards. March 11th started with rain. Just rain, nothing more. People in New York, Boston, Philadelphia walked through wet streets, umbrellas up, annoyed but not afraid. Rain was nothing. Cold was nothing. These were cities that survived brutal winters every single year. That night, something changed. Temperatures didn't just drop, they collapsed. Within hours, rain became sleet, sleet became ice, ice became snow. But not gentle snow, not the kind that drifts peacefully to the ground. This was violent, horizontal, blinding snow driven by winds screaming at 50 miles per hour. By dawn, the world had disappeared. And here's the thing that killed people. Nobody stayed home. Why would they? It was just snow. Americans in 1888 didn't cancel life for weather. You went to work. You got food. You checked on neighbors. The storm was counting on that. The storm was counting on routine. Within 3 hours, snowdrifts reached 10 feet. Then 20, then 30. Some rose higher than 3-story buildings, swallowing entire homes to their rooftops. Windows on second floors vanished behind walls of white. Front doors became sealed tombs. And still, people tried to move. Horses collapsed mid-street, frozen standing up, their bodies locked in place until spring. Elevated trains ground to a halt. Passengers trapped in metal coffins suspended above streets they could no longer see. No heat, no food, no way down. Some stayed trapped for 36 hours, huddling together as frost crept across the windows and their breath turned to ice-telegraph. Lines snapped like frozen spiderwebs. Cities went silent. New York couldn't reach Boston. Boston couldn't reach anyone. For the first time in the modern age, America's greatest cities were completely, utterly alone. But the real horror was happening at ground level. People stepped outside, thinking they could make it 1 block. 1 block. A man left his house to check on his shop 3 buildings away. They found him frozen between 2 storefronts, his hands bloody from clawing at a door that wouldn't open. A woman collapsed on her own front steps, house keys still gripped in her frozen hand, 5 feet from warmth and survival. Children vanished walking home from school. 1 minute visible, the next swallowed by white. Search parties found them days later, some curled beneath snowbanks they'd tried to use as shelter, others standing upright where they'd frozen, perfectly preserved. Eyes still open, the blizzard killed without mercy and without logic. A wealthy banker froze in the street while a homeless man survived by breaking into a church. Geography mattered more than money. Luck mattered more than preparation. Being inside mattered more than anything else in the world. New York City, the beating heart of American progress, fell apart in less than a day. No coal could be delivered. Fires went out. Families froze inside their own homes, huddled together under every blanket they owned, watching their breath crystallize in the air. Buildings burned because firefighters couldn't reach them, their equipment buried, their hoses frozen solid. Flames lit up the white darkness while mountains of snow surrounded them. Fire and ice, together destroying everything. Food vanished. Milk deliveries stopped. Bread supplies ran out. Markets couldn't open, couldn't stock, couldn't function. In tenement buildings, families rationed whatever scraps remained. Not knowing the storm would last for days, elevated railway passengers, still trapped in frozen train cars, began to panic. Some tried to climb down into the blinding storm. Most who tried were never seen again. Others stayed inside and slowly froze, packed together. Their body heat the only thing keeping them alive. Outside the cities, entire towns disappeared. Farmhouses were buried to their chimneys. Barns collapsed, crushing livestock beneath tons of snow and splintered wood. In rural Connecticut and Massachusetts, families tied ropes around their waists and tunneled through snow just to reach their neighbors. Crawling through frozen darkness, praying to find someone, anyone. Still alive, trains derailed on tracks they couldn't see. Locomotives plunged into snowbanks and vanished. Sailors froze on ships, trapped in coastal ice, their vessels locked in place, supplies exhausted. Rescue impossible. And through it all, the wind screamed. After 4 days, the snow stopped. The silence that followed was worse. As temperatures rose, the bodies emerged, frozen in doorways, collapsed in alleys, buried in drifts, standing upright where they'd stopped moving. Officially, 400 people died. But the real number, we'll never know. Immigrants with no records, the homeless with no names, sailors lost at sea. Entire families found frozen together weeks later when snow finally melted. Mass graves were dug. Bodies were buried without identification. History recorded the number but lost the names. What made the Great Blizzard of 1888 uniquely, horrifically effective wasn't the cold. It was the disorientation. The wind erased sound. The snow erased sight. People stood 10 feet from safety and couldn't find it. They wandered in circles, their tracks filled in behind them, no landmarks, no direction, no hope. Imagine freezing to death while touching the wall of your own house, not knowing it's there. That happened again and again and again. The blizzard changed America. Power lines went underground. Weather forecasting systems were built. Subways replaced elevated trains. Emergency planning became law. Modern infrastructure exists because hundreds of people froze to death in 1888. Today, we have satellites, radar, instant warnings. We track storms days in advance. We believe we're safe. But every winter, people still say it's just a short walk. Every winter, people still underestimate what cold and wind can do in minutes. Every winter, someone doesn't make it home. Nature doesn't need drama. It doesn't need earthquakes or tsunamis or tornadoes. Sometimes it just needs snow, wind, and human confidence. Somewhere beneath modern New York City, beneath concrete and subway tunnels and millions of footsteps, lie the paths where people once froze steps from safety. No plaques mark where they fell. No memorials carry their names. Only snow remembers, and snow never forgets.